stew is thin again, isn't it?
Aye, my lord. We make do with what we have.
What if I told you that everything you believed about the lives of lords in castles during winter was untrue? Behind thick stone walls lay not luxury, but a harsh struggle for warmth and survival. Huge halls turned into icy traps, forcing the inhabitants to keep moving and search for reliable shelters. In these conditions, architecture served not only as protection from external enemies, but also as the main barrier against the piercing cold. Watch the video to the end to learn how architectural solutions and everyday habits helped people survive the harshest winter months in stone fortresses. Stone walls act as a huge radiator, absorbing the remaining heated air in the room. The main task is to immediately find a room with the fewest exterior walls. Usually, this is the central hall or the rooms above the kitchen, where residual heat is retained. Spacious halls with high arches create strong drafts that carry precious warm air upward. The architecture of the fortress, designed for defense, becomes a trap in the cold winter months. Narrow windows without glass let in the icy wind, requiring immediate blocking with wooden shutters or thick fabric. Being near the outer walls leads to rapid heat loss due to constant contact with frozen stone. A rational solution is to move to the center of the room, away from windows and massive doors. An important step is to correctly assess the available clothing and layers of fabric. A single thick coat keeps you much less warm than several layers of thinner wool or linen. Air pockets between layers of clothing create a reliable barrier against body heat loss. It is extremely important to cover your head and neck, as significant energy loss occurs through these areas. Shoes should be insulated from the stone floor with straw or additional pieces of thick fabric. Lighting a fire in a large fireplace requires caution due to strong backdrafts and frozen chimneys. The first logs lit may produce more smoke than heat, filling the room with acrid, thick smog. It is recommended to start with a small fire, gradually warming up the chimney to create proper air draft. Using dry wood is critical to minimizing initial smoke. The placement of people around the fire should take into account the direction of drafts so that they are not in the path of cold air. Warm air accumulates under the high ceiling, leaving the area near the floor cold and uncomfortable. Creating raised platforms for sitting or sleeping helps to avoid direct contact with the coldest layer of air. Wooden decking or several layers of dry straw serve as basic insulation from the frozen stone. It is forbidden to sit directly on the stone steps or bare floors, as this leads to rapid hypothermia. Constant monitoring of your condition helps to notice the first signs of heat loss in time. Windows, even when tightly closed with shutters, remain the main sources of cold air penetration. Additional sealing of gaps with rags, clay, or snow from the outside helps to significantly reduce heat loss in the room. Interior doors also need to be insulated with thick curtains to prevent free air circulation between rooms. Each time a door is opened, accumulated heat is released, so any movement between rooms is kept to a minimum. Strict control is exercised over any openings leading outside or into unheated long corridors. Organizing the space around the heat source requires clear and thoughtful planning. Heat should be reflected from walls or specially installed screens, directing it towards people resting. Metal objects are removed as they cool down very quickly and accumulate cold. Wooden furniture, on the contrary, maintains room temperature and serves as an additional thermal barrier. All efforts in the first few hours are aimed at creating a stable perimeter, protected from the biting wind. Gradually, the body adapts to the new temperature, but the body's resources begin to deplete imperceptibly. Conserving internal energy becomes as important a task as maintaining external warmth. Every hour spent in the cold requires the body to work harder on all internal systems. Understanding these processes helps you make more informed decisions about how to allocate your energy. We would be very interested to hear your opinion on these methods of conserving heat. Please write about it in the comments and be sure to subscribe to our channel. Guess what happened next when the frost began to penetrate through the thick stone? There comes a period when the initial heat finally dissipates, and the main problem becomes penetrating dampness. The stone walls of the castle begin to actively release condensation, which settles on outer clothing and furniture. Humidity significantly increases the feeling of cold, making the air heavy and incredibly piercing. At this time, special vigilance is required to prevent valuable woolen items from getting wet. Dry fabric remains the only reliable shield between a warm body and the icy air. Keeping a constant fire in the fireplace leads to the inevitable accumulation of smoke under the high ceilings. Ventilation in castles often cannot cope with the volume of thick smoke from damp or resinous wood. The smoke sinks lower, irritating the eyes and making it difficult for people in the room to breathe. One has to constantly choose between opening the windows for ventilation and losing precious heat. It is important to avoid burning materials that emit toxic substances or excessively acrid black smoke. Controlling humidity in an insulated room becomes a critical factor for further survival. Wet raincoats and shoes must be placed at a safe distance from the fire to dry slowly. Placing them too close to an open flame can easily damage the fabric or cause a fire. Drying is extremely uneven, requiring constant turning of wet items. Keeping the sleeping area dry becomes an absolute priority before the cold night sets in. Smoke forces people to move closer to the floor, where the air remains cleaner and clearer. This creates a contradiction, as the stone floor is the coldest surface in the huge room. The compromise is to create low wooden platforms that raise people above the stone, but leave them below the layer of smoke. These wooden platforms serve as the main protected areas for rest and wakefulness. This arrangement of space allows people to endure the most difficult hours of heavy smoke. The lighting inside the castle becomes dim and limited due to strict economy of candles and torches. The semi-darkness is very oppressive and reduces the ability to adequately assess the overall situation. Moving through dark corridors in search of supplies becomes dangerous due to the risk of tripping in the dark. It is recommended to move only along well-known routes, carefully feeling the walls and steps. Vision gradually adapts to the lack of light, but overall internal tension increases significantly. The feeling of isolation intensifies as severe frost freezes the world outside the castle walls. Sounds from outside are completely muffled, leaving the inhabitants alone with the monotonous hum of the wind in the chimneys. This sensory deprivation requires a conscious approach to maintaining stable morale. Conversations are conducted exclusively in quiet voices, so as not to waste extra energy on loud shouting. Communication helps distract from the cold and maintain focus on the current tasks of survival. Dampness imperceptibly penetrates even food supplies, threatening to spoil dried products and valuable grain. It is necessary to regularly check bags and barrels, gradually moving them closer to heat sources. Mold and moisture can destroy meager reserves much faster than the cold itself. Organizing proper storage requires constant attention and regular rearrangement of items. Protecting scarce resources is the key to successfully overcoming the remaining hours. As night approaches, the temperature continues to drop relentlessly and rapidly. Fatigue reaches its limit, requiring the organization of safe sleep in extreme cold conditions. Preparing sleeping places takes all remaining physical strength and attention. Are you ready to learn how people organize their sleeping quarters so as not to freeze in their sleep? People do not sleep separately, but form a single living cocoon of bodies covered with all available fabrics. The most vulnerable members of the group are placed in the center of this cocoon, where the temperature reaches its maximum. The edges of the module are securely protected by the thickest layers of clothing and heavy tapestries. Keeping watch by the fire becomes a vital and mandatory practice at night. While the main group sleeps, one designated person maintains a minimum burn and monitors safety. The watch is changed every few hours so that each participant can get their share of sleep. The person on duty also regularly checks the temperature of the heated stones and carefully monitors the absence of flying sparks. This requires a high level of responsibility, as the well-being of the entire group depends on the actions of one person. An unusual practice is the use of wood ash as a powerful insulating material. A thick layer of completely cooled ash from the fireplace is poured under the wooden floor to create an additional barrier. Ash has excellent thermal insulation properties and effectively prevents moisture from penetrating from below. The use of such unexpected materials demonstrates the highest level of human adaptation to harsh conditions. Every available resource in the huge castle is rethought in terms of energy conservation. Waking up in such conditions should be as slow and gradual as possible. Abruptly leaving warm shelters causes severe shock from the temperature difference and spasms in the blood vessels. First, the upper layers of the covering material are carefully removed, allowing the air to cool the body slightly. Then light warm-up exercises are performed right inside the warm sleeping module. Only after that can you safely leave the shelter and approach the burning hearth. Moisture from collective breathing inside a tightly closed sleeping area can become a problem by morning. Condensation settles heavily on the inner surfaces of raincoats and tapestries, making them very damp. Immediately after waking up, these fabrics must be turned face up towards the fire for thorough drying. Ignoring this rule will result in the shelter losing its warming properties the following night. Drying becomes the first and most important morning task for the entire awakened group. Lack of proper sleep accumulates, greatly reducing cognitive abilities and overall reaction speed. People become significantly slower, and their habitual movements lose their former precision. It is important to avoid complex or potentially dangerous tasks in the first few hours after waking up in the morning. Routine activities such as sorting firewood or rearranging things help to gently ease into the rhythm of the day. Conserving mental energy is just as important as conserving scarce physical energy. The search for additional insulation materials in the castle does not stop for a single minute. Old mattresses are carefully unstitched, and straw from the stables or dry grass from cold storage rooms is used. These natural materials are used to form additional bolsters, which are used to tightly seal the gaps under the doors. Every centimeter of available space is sealed with maniacal thoroughness and incredible attention to detail. In the fight against the severe frost, there are simply no insignificant details or excessive precautions. These unique methods demonstrate how collective work and unconventional thinking help to overcome extreme difficulties. Survival in a huge castle ceases to be an individual task and turns into a well-coordinated group effort. Each person plays their part in maintaining the fragile balance of heat and energy. If you enjoyed this unconventional approach to survival, be sure to like this video. In unheated stone halls, fabric quickly became a strategic and vital resource. The bare walls of a huge castle rapidly absorbed any remaining warm air, creating a frightening ice well effect. To stop this process, the inhabitants actively and extensively used the technique of multi-layered draping of walls and openings. Tapestries, carpets, and thick canvases were carefully hung a few centimeters away from the cold stone. This invisible air gap worked as an ideal insulator, preventing the cold from penetrating deep into the room. Window openings, even when tightly closed with sturdy wooden shutters, remained vulnerable. Old raincoats, woolen blankets, and sacks, tightly rolled into tight rolls, were used to seal them securely. These textile barriers were forcefully driven into all the cracks around the perimeter of the window, completely blocking the piercing drafts. A coarse, spare cloth was additionally stretched over the shutters, creating another barrier against strong winds. In the most severe frosts, narrow windows could be bricked up with mattresses, completely sacrificing daylight for warmth. Special and constant attention was paid to protecting the extremities, which froze first. Long woolen wraps were tightly fixed on the legs, creating a thick insulating layer from the knee to the foot. Leather shoes were often filled with dry moss or soft straw for additional significant insulation of the thin sole. Hands were hidden in incredibly long tunic sleeves or warmed in special warm fur muffs, if available. Constant, intense rubbing of the hands together helped to circulate blood and maintain sensitivity in the fingers. The use of available spare fabric was not limited to bare walls and multi-layered clothing. Textile rugs and animal skins were laid on stone floors in a kind of multi-layered pie. Absolute priority was given to the areas around the hearth and the routes of constant movement of awake people. Bare, frozen stone was categorically excluded from the contact zone as it instantly drew heat away through the soles of the feet. Even a very thin layer of old canvas on the floor provided a significant advantage in combating the cold. Caring for all insulating materials required constant attention and extremely careful handling. Fabric that accidentally absorbed moisture from the air instantly lost its properties and became a dangerous conductor of cold. Regular airing and thorough drying of tapestries by the fire was a routine, but absolutely necessary procedure. Areas contaminated with dust were cleaned with stiff brushes without using water so as not to increase dampness. Keeping the textiles perfectly dry ensured their effectiveness throughout the day. The integration of a variety of textiles into the austere architecture of the castle transformed the cold halls into something resembling insulated tents. The thoughtful and rational use of each piece of fabric created a reliable multi-level protection system. This approach irrefutably proved that knowledge of the properties of materials is often more important than the thickness of stone walls. The ability to competently insulate a cold space largely determined the success of survival during the long winter days. After a day and a half, the body begins to experience an acute calorie deficit due to the constant struggle against the penetrating cold. The nutrition strategy changes dramatically. Any food is perceived exclusively as fuel to maintain internal heat. Light and frequent snacks are completely replaced by rare but maximally caloric meals. The basis of the winter diet is foods high in fat and complex carbohydrates, which take a long time to digest. Rationing of supplies becomes extremely strict in order to provide the group with energy until the very end of the test. Fats become the most valuable and sought-after component of the diet in extremely low temperatures. Pieces of lard, clarified butter, or animal fat are generously added to any available dishes to increase their energy content. Fatty foods are digested slowly, providing a long-lasting and very stable release of internal heat. Soldiers and servants often dipped hard, stale bread into melted fat to make it more nutritious and soft. This incredibly harsh menu was dictated solely by the biological necessity of survival. Drinking habits also undergo significant changes, as cold water causes severe cramps and chills. Water, beer, or ale must be thoroughly heated before consumption, often with the addition of available spices. Hot drinks help to quickly raise body temperature and prevent dehydration, which occurs imperceptibly in the cold. In winter, the air in the castle rooms becomes very dry due to the fire, requiring regular replenishment of moisture in the body. Warmed drinks are served in small portions throughout the long day. The meager supplies are divided into equal portions in advance to completely avoid the temptation to eat more than the norm. The person responsible for provisions strictly controls the distribution of food, preventing any attempts to violate the diet. The feeling of hunger is greatly exacerbated at low temperatures, causing people to lose self-control and rational thinking. A clear meal schedule helps to reliably discipline the group and create the illusion of a normal routine. The anticipation of food becomes an important psychological support in the gray monotony of endless days. The stomach, accustomed to a certain amount of food, humbly adapts to greatly reduced portions over time. The acute feeling of hunger is gradually replaced by a lingering, constant weakness and severe sluggishness of movement. The body goes into a mode of strict economy, greatly slowing down the metabolism to preserve basic functions. During this difficult period, it is especially important to avoid any physical overload that could cause fainting. Every action is carefully weighed against the remaining available internal energy. Rational use of scarce food reserves allows the group to hold out until the end of the third day. Food finally ceases to be a pleasure, becoming a boring but vital medicine. A harsh winter diet consisting exclusively of dry and fatty foods forms the basis of physical endurance. Without this extremely strict control, even huge reserves of firewood would not be able to save people from internal freezing. Nighttime sleep becomes very intermittent and superficial, turning into a very heavy form of drowsiness. The body stubbornly refuses to enter the deep phases of sleep due to the constant feeling of cold and discomfort. People often wake up at the slightest change in air temperature or when the heat from the fireplace weakens. This painful state of half sleep, half wakefulness exhausts the nervous system, completely depriving it of proper rest. However, it is precisely this sensitive drowsiness that allows one to react in time to the dying saving fire. The focus of attention narrows to the most primitive basic needs: the saving fire, the remnants of heat, dry clothes. Complex thought processes and long-term planning become completely impossible due to incredible fatigue. Consciousness is rigidly fixed on simple objects and routine actions that provide immediate physical comfort. This psychological reduction is a powerful defense mechanism that protects the psyche from overexertion. The brain simply refuses to expend energy on any tasks not related to the current moment of survival. The fire is maintained with very automatic, precise movements without the slightest unnecessary fuss. Rare logs are added just enough to maintain stable combustion, avoiding bright flashes of flame. Careful control of the draft and smoke is done instinctively, based on barely noticeable changes in the air. The bitter experience of the first few days allows the group to skillfully manage the hearth with minimal physical effort. The fire becomes the sole center of this greatly slowed down, focused existence. Forced immobility is often accompanied by a feeling of heaviness in the limbs, and muscles quickly lose their tone. It is necessary to periodically perform very light isometric muscle contractions without changing the position of the body at all. Systematic tension and relaxation of the calves or thighs is an excellent way to disperse stagnant blood and warm the tissues. This invisible exercise requires virtually no calories, but is very effective in preventing deep freezing. Such micro-movements become practically the only form of permissible physical activity. Paying close attention to your body is a great way to recognize the critical signs of severe hypothermia in time. Loss of sensation in the fingers or toes requires immediate but extremely careful rubbing. Chills that quickly turn into severe shivering are a clear sign that the body is rapidly losing its core heat. At such moments, the freezing person moves closer to the fire and receives an additional portion of hot drink. Mutual assistance within the group reliably ensures that these symptoms do not go unnoticed. The emotional background gradually evens out, giving way to calm, dull resignation to the circumstances. The irritability characteristic of the first few hours disappears due to a lack of energy to express it. Conflicts within the group fade away, as any lengthy disputes require too much precious energy. This forced apathy greatly contributes to maintaining stability within the isolated community. Absolutely everyone is united by one simple goal: to wait silently for the end of the severe cold weather. Survival in a medieval castle during the winter required tremendous endurance, strict discipline, and flawless planning. Every resource, from a log of firewood to a scrap of fabric, was critical and used with maximum efficiency. These 72 hours demonstrate how human ingenuity and collective work can withstand even the harshest climate. Perhaps the experience of the past teaches us to treat heat with care and to use all available resources rationally. Please suggest topics for future videos that you would like to see in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to our channel.